So I'm from Minnesota, and here in the Twin Cities area, like St. Paul, Minneapolis metro region, we have a Indian community, and I mean South Asian, not Native American. So anyway, one of the jobs that I had, I met this Indian girl, and we became cool and we became friends. So yeah, she was around my age, a couple years older. And when I first met her, she was pretty upset about her ex-fiance, that they called off their engagement. They had to get married. So she was pretty messed up about that. She said it had to do with her dark skin color for why the engagement was called off. I don't know if her ex-fiance said that or implied that it had to do with her dark skin color, or if she just presumed that. But yeah, she didn't seem very happy with her skin color. Her mom was more of like a medium hue, and she would talk about how she wished she was at least her mom's color. And she told me that she wanted to be light skinned and that she always wished that she was light skinned. She also told me how her family would tell her to find a lighter skin tone man so that she can have lighter skinned kids. The rest of her family, from what I saw, were of a darker hue. I would just tell her, oh, your skin color is beautiful. But yeah, I was just thinking that, she's way too gorgeous to be feeling this way about herself because of a skin color. Like, I don't even think that a lighter shade hue would suit her as well or would look as gorgeous on her. So yeah, I didn't really understand why she didn't just embrace her skin color. But yeah, I really don't know that much about colorism and other cultures and other parts of the world. That was just one other experience that I had, but yeah, it wasn't too different from the experiences that I've had with African Americans. Whenever I see people complaining about colorism and talking about colorism, it always seems like they don't have pride in being dark skinned and they can't see it as beautiful. They don't associate with things that are going to uplift themselves, and they want to put themselves down. From my perspective, I'm like, well, if that's how you see things, maybe it's you who doesn't believe that dark skin is beautiful, and maybe it's you who has devalued dark skin. And I think a big reason people feel like dark skin is less than is because of dark skinned people. I think the whole problem with these situations is that dark skinned people implement colorism. So I don't know how it is a colorism situation. Like if a black person is implementing racism, I think it's more like self-hate. So yeah, I would say the same thing for colorism. If you don't like your skin tone, then you aren't loving yourself and it's self-hate. It doesn't seem like the problem is people being negatively associated with dark skin. No, what it seems like is what they care about is they are negatively implicated in it themselves. Like they treat being dark like it's some sort of prison sentence, like they're upset and bitter because they're the ones being dark and others aren't. They have this idea of dark skin and they impose it. If they were really oppressed by this, they wouldn't be holding on to the thing that oppressed them. What it is they cry colorism to hide behind their insecurities and not deal with the perception of themselves, but to put it to other people. So they can look like a victim. If you're expressing anti-blackness, then you are spreading anti-blackness. Don't blame anyone else for it because you're literally implementing these concepts. From what I observe, it almost seems like it's nature, but yeah, I don't know. And that, it keeps going to white people. Like in Asian and African countries, they say that colorism existed before colonization and before white supremacy. But you can see that the logic, like in the US, for example, the logic is exacerbated to encompass white people as well. A lot of the time I read about colorism experiences, and a lot of the time I'm like, oh, well, that's happened to me, or I have felt that way, I've been treated that way. So, yeah, sometimes I think they're associating bad experiences that they've had that a lot of us deal with colorism. I don't think the US is that racist of a country, but yeah, there is anti blackness around us, in the world. But usually people are looking at a black heritage, not really a skin tone. If it was just a skin tone, and I'm talking about here in the US, wouldn't, like, say, darker skinned Indians have the same issue here? Maybe they do in their country, but I don't think they have here in the US. Yeah, I think that, maybe in some cases, these colorism experiences are more like racism that lighter skinned or mixed black people would face as well. So that's one of the things I don't like about the colorism bandwagon is it kind of erases the voice and experiences of lighter skinned black people or mixed black people as if it doesn't matter or that it can't be as bad because of a privilege. You can't put your issues onto other people just because you have an issue with being dark skinned and feel inferior doesn't mean you need to use that against people who are lighter skinned. You can't blame anyone. That's your own problem for not liking what you see in the mirror. And yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with people having a certain preference or insecurity. I don't think there's anything wrong with people liking um, mixed women or light skin or anything like that. But if you're having an issue with that, that's a you problem. With colorism, it's like you're projecting that onto people that you uphold. If someone puts white people over black people and they're not white, I don't think I would blame the white people. The problem is, why weren't you taught to love yourself and why don't you have a self esteem about your skin color? It should come from within. That's why it's called self esteem. It should come from yourself. And with like dating preferences and things like that, I don't think it's always like, self hate. With dating, I think people either they go for similarity or they go for like an opposite situation. And I don't think it's always, I don't think it's always the main thing is self hate. And I don't think people liking, light features or mixed people or anything like that is always, a self hate situation. I think people have, I think that, people can have different experiences and they can, experience and they can deal in colorism differently. For example, in the United States, a majority white people, for the most part. So, say you have a child and they're of a different race and they're surrounded by like all white people or, majority of another race, they might, want to fit in. Kids, they kind of want to fit in. So I think that, yeah, that's pretty common for, children to go through something like that. Or like, say, for dating, for dating, I think that people either go for the similarity or there's also the opposites attract situation. That situation, like people with darker features are more common and people with lighter features are, less common. So it may look like that they are more sought after, like in the African American community. Darker skinned people are more common than lighter skinned people, but there still may be, like the opposites attract situation. Yeah, I've seen this, with dark-skinned black men and dark-skinned black women where, they may have a preference for lighter skin tone people, and that may, just be an opposites attract situation, and I don't see anything wrong with that. But the thing with that is there's less light skin people, there's less mixed people. So it may seem like, well, we're getting all of the attention because it's the opposite attract situation. There's more darker skinned people and less lighter skinned people. So, yeah, so like the lighter skinned women, it seems like we have, a lot of options as far as the black community. And then the lighter skinned men have, a lot of options, but then the darker skinned people don't have a lot of options in that dynamic. And yeah, I have seen it a lot where the lighter skinned woman will prefer the darker skinned man, and the darker skinned woman will prefer the lighter skinned man, and the lighter skinned man will prefer the darker skinned woman. And man, I don't see anything wrong with that at all. Yeah, I just see it as, opposites attract. But yeah, I definitely see what people mean about, the self-loathing as well. I mean, yeah, that's just a different situation if you're just devaluing yourself and these sort of relationship dynamics. With colorism, they always talk about how light-skinned women can be preferred by black men and how they love it and all this nonsense. And yeah, I don't see anything wrong about a light-skinned woman being preferred by a black man or any race of man. And I see black women do the same behavior when they, get preferred or uplifted by like a light-skinned man or a man of a different race. So yeah, I mean, to me, it kind of looks like they're seeking validation in this situation, but I mean, I don't really see, other than that, I don't have, any issue with that. So, yeah, I mean, it's like kind of like a hypocrisy. I don't understand why they have an issue with the preference when it's not their fault for existing or being the racial makeup or skin color that they are. It's more the fault of the dark-skinned black man who loves someone else's image and doesn't value his own image. And it doesn't seem to matter if the preference is receptive or not. It only matters what the black man prefers. It doesn't matter if they never invited this into their lives and they never asked for this. It doesn't matter if it's wanted or unwanted. Because what they are saying is if they were in that position of which they call a privilege, they would take that privilege because they see it as a positive thing. If they would take that privilege, that tells you that the concern is not about dark skin being valued. It's more about that they care that they are dark skinned. They don't direct the attention to where it belongs. They direct it to someone who can't do anything about the situation and who has no control over what someone else prefers. They talk about how the men use colorism to pin the women against each other, but the women fall for it because they're dysfunctional in that way as well. I don't really think that colorism comes from men or women. What I think is that both the men and women experience and suffer from colorism simultaneously, but they deal with it differently, where the men project their pain and where the women internalize it, and where they try to appeal to and appease these black men. Look at how some of you guys are openly racist against yourself and against anyone who belongs to the black race. They attack themselves for being black. They attack others for being black. They attack people racially, and get away with it and use their dark skin as a status of victimhood. And it's overlooked because they are dark skinned and then wonder why there's infighting and hating. They see dark skin as a negative trait, and they think when other people see dark skin, they associate it negatively too. So they pay close attention to anyone who asserts anything about dark skin and find negativity in it because that's how they feel themselves when it's not what others are thinking. The colorism topic does give a bit more confidence to insecure light skinned women who maybe don't feel like they have much else going for them. So they focus in on it and they feed into it. The colorism topic kind of just plays into their hands into feeling like they're more attractive than someone simply on the basis of a skin color. I don't really think that it's really helping anything that much, and it's more of hurting. I understand why people buy into it because I think it makes them feel better, but all they're really saying is that they feel inferior to other people.